观众朋友晚上好，欢迎您收看这一期的交易员对话节目。在这一期节目中，我们继续为您请来了 Jeffrey 公司董事经理 Peter Kenny 先生。Peter 呢，在纽约证券交易所也是作为一个资深的交易员，在纽约证券交易所交易大厅已经是工作多年了。特别是呢，他也是一直是 CNBC、Bloomberg 这些美国的各大财经台的每日的对市场的评论家。那么今天我们就会请 Peter 来跟我们分析一下整个最近的美国股市的一些变化。Hello Peter, how are you doing today?
Doing very well, thank you, Kathy. And you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you very much. So, the market just snapped a 3-day slump, but we are up the second day. So, what do you think the overall performance of the market so far?
Well, first of all, it's nice to see. We've had so much volatility lately and some substantial volume spikes that it's taken some of the more fearful people out of the market, and institutions have tended to step to the sidelines, primarily after the quadruple witch that we had last Friday. But now Wednesday, we're trying to find our sea legs, and the market is acting better. And across the board, we had several upgrades earlier today that have lent some sort of stability to the market. And as a direct result, you see the market having maybe found some sort of short-term bottom at the 11,000 mark on the Dow.
You are seeing now we don't have a volume. It's like people waiting for the sideline until the next meeting will be happened next Tuesday Federal Reserve meeting, right?
That's correct. Well, there I think you'll see from here to that point, Kathy, we're going to see volume dry up a little bit. But I think the bias now in the short term has changed to a more bullish perspective. People are clearly expecting the Fed to raise rates a quarter point. There's no question about that. The question is, going forward through the summer, is the economy strong enough to sustain another 1, 2, or 3 quarter point raise over the balance of the year? Or has the economy softened to the extent that the Fed can now take that pause that everybody was hoping? That, Kathy, will be dictated by energy and housing.
You brought up to the very interesting questions for the two questions. The first one will be, so actually recently we've been heard the two different voices over the Federal Reserve monetary policy. One side is, of course, support the Federal Reserve, which is a data-dependent monetary policy. The other side, they always said the Federal Reserve is paying too much attention on floored price data. So what do you think, what's your point of view about the Federal Reserve policy?
Well, that's a really good question, and I think that question and that argument is something that it's become more and more and more prevalent on the trading floor and on the street in general, and that is because many people feel as though the Fed puts too much of an emphasis on these incremental, infinitesimal changes in data that is secondary or tertiary by nature. And as a direct result, people read so much into these very, very microscopic moves in secondary and tertiary numbers that the Fed makes decisions based on that. Well, I don't think that that's really the case. I think the Fed makes decisions based on much, much, much broader application of movements within the internals of the market. And as a direct result, that is very, very, very important. But not one index or the other index or one piece of information over another. It's more of a mosaic. And the Fed has to be very careful to balance the terminology that they use when they raise, lower, or keep rates neutral with the actual action.
Think about the housing market now. This week we have a kind of a sort of complicated the numbers. The first day, Monday, we had an HAB, the housing index, declined to the 11-year low. And yesterday we had the housing start number, pretty amazing. So what do you think this kind of number is going to mean the market?
Another great question. And the answer is actually, if you look just a little below the surface, we had a number that actually compared to the April number, the number that we just got compared to the April number. So it's not a true indicator of the trend of the housing market. Keep in mind, we have had a 10, 11-year boom in that industry, and it has really fueled tremendous wealth accumulation across the middle and upper income class sectors of the economy. It's generated tremendous wealth. Now, even that sector has to cool off, and it is in the process of cooling. It's not surprising, market. the trend is lower, and certainly the real estate sector and housing sector is going to continue to cool, but that may be temporary.
The housing market is cooling off is one of the signals for the economy, overall economy
Yes.
slowing down.
Yes.
So we are no question doubted about the economy slowing down as well as inflation, always threat us right now. So. Question is, are we headed into the stagflation, what will be the signal for the stagflation?
I would say we're not heading into the stagflation that we have historically seen. When we talk about stagflation, people who are old enough, like myself, to remember the last time that this was a prevalent mark on the economy was in the 70s. When we had Jimmy Carter in office, when inflation rates were 3 or 4 times what they are now, and that was primarily being driven by OPEC, and it was being driven by the curtailment of oil shipments to the United States. Right now, OPEC controls less than 50% of the oil that's produced. So oil is not going to have the impact that it once did, coupled with a globalization of the economy. So we are no longer so dependent on that one pillar of the economy to drive the economy, meaning cheap energy. We have a far more diversified economy, more globalized economy, and so it can suffer the bumps and bruises of a slowdown in the economy without having to worry about the inflationary pressures of an energy cutoff.
What can we expect for the rest of the week?
The rest of the week, I think we're going to keep the trend that we have established yesterday. 11,000 should be some sort of support until the Fed meeting. And we probably won't see any real dynamic move in the market for some time, at least until some upgrades or downgrades in some of the key sectors.
Thank you very much, Peter. Fantastic points. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy.
观众朋友，以上就是我对 Jeffrey 公司董事经理 Peter Kenny 先生专访。那么我们这是本周的交易员对话的节目，但是我们还有其他的一些节目会陆续在本周呢为您推出。首先就是来自hedge fund以及对冲基金的一些话题。另外，在本周呢还会有郭亚夫先生给我们带来的本周强弱势类股的追踪，以及对一些观众朋友提出的问题的解答。感谢收看今天的节目，我们下周再见。